Now then folks, it's 1:30. We've got 2.5 hours to get up onto Kinder for our pitch before sunset. And I've got an appointment at the chapel, so come on. I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late. No, I don't mean that chapel. Come on, stop messing round. So this is Grindslow House, now known as Champion House. And for centuries this was owned by the Champion family. Most of the booths down Edale have had a family associated with them for going back to whenever. This is important because our story starts here. Way back in 1870, the Champions employed a man called Mike Tym, who was known as Mike, as a gardener back at Grindslow House. And when Mike was working up on the plateau, one of the things he did was to build a shooting cabin, and it's marked on the old maps. Him and a man called William Belfit built the cabin, and Jack and William used to go up there regular, and one day they were entertaining themselves with probably a little bit too much booze, and Mike got quite merry and he started to lecture and preach to William about the evils of drink and how you shouldn't imbibe because it's bad for the soul. And that's how it became known as Micah's Chapel, or the Chapel, or Mike's Chapel, or even Tim's Chapel, all of those names. But it was a shooting cabin. Not a grouse butt, a shooting cabin, which implies a roof, probably a fire, not the structure that we see today. I'll tell you a bit more about that and my theory in a minute. Thank you to all the people who've subscribed since last week. It's very much appreciated, thank you. I hope you enjoy the stuff that's on here. I had some lovely comments, and one of them was from a very good friend of mine, who I've known going back to whenever, when I used to be a milkman. And he says, do you know, I recognise that spot where you said was the forge, and you were bang on, it was the forge, because when I was at university, I helped out on the archaeological dig at that location. What a coincidence, that's amazing. Anyway, how did the chapel become 4 jacks? Well, over time it became it wasn't maintained very well and quite dishevelled. And in the, I believe, 1950s. And Jack Tym, who was Mike Tym's son, Jack Belfit, who was William Belfit's relation, I don't know who, how they're related, and Jack Burdekin, and I'm looking at my notes, and Jack Wright Rowbottom. So they're the 4 Jacks. They rebuilt the cabin, and I've actually got some photographs of that from 1977. There's one of it where you can see it's obviously in winter, by looking at the vegetation around, and then one that's very much in winter. I got these from the Sheffield Pictures website, which is fascinating. And I'll come back to that little fact at the end of the camp. Yeah, so obviously it was a cabin structure, you know, very much like you would imagine a bothy. Nothing like what we see now, and that's a little bit of a mystery. Anyway, I've got still in a rush, so I'll crack on. Heading up, straight up Grindsbrook. I'm going to stop and get some water at the Fountain of Youth. Hallelujah. I've got 2 little bottles of water, but that's not going to be enough for tonight. And I know the water from there is pure.
Oh, I'll try not to disturb your camera because I follow you on YouTube.
Okay.
You and Angus and all that lot.
Yeah. Full ward.
Yeah. So I'll try not to disturb your camera.
Don't worry about it. I'll edit it out, mate. What's your name?
Matt.
Matt.
Yeah.
It don't get easier. Microspikes free the world. I'd have been sliding all over the place without these on. Met Mark coming up. Hi to you, Mark. Nice to share your company coming up at the last scramble. Hope you have a good camp tonight. Says he's going to watch last week's video of mine next when he's up on Grindslow. That's going to be a bit windy up there. Had to put my coat on. Just starting to get a little bit of wind. I don't want to get too cold. You've got that tricky conundrum, haven't you, that I'm going to sweat under this, but at least it's going to keep the wind off. Not got far to go now. I'll put you back on when we get to the site. Right, I've got everything, got the tarp laid out. It's flapping a bit, annoying me. I'm going to probably peg that. I've got an A-frame configuration. Thank you, Adrian. Mountain hopper. Put it on the screen. I asked him what's the best tarp to use in possible conditions I'm going to have today, and he said A-frame all the way. I haven't got it right. I know I haven't got it right. I could do with a lifter. It's not going to happen. I haven't got it high enough, I don't think. I'm not going to adjust it. But I'm in my bivvy. I've got that on top of me. I don't know what we're going to do if we get a lot of snow on top of it. I'll just be banging it off, I think. It's all a learning game. Got my air mat up. I've got my radiator foil underneath it. I'm in my sleeping bag. I've got my boots in the blue bag. Got my backpack in that black bag. Got all my spare clothing in this black bag. And I'm just trying to make sense of this absolute mess I've got at this end. I've got the Atom Packs little pack here, which I've put all my electrics stuff into it. Nice little pack. I put all my spare bags and stuff into there. I'm going to include in that tent pegs. This, a black dog hammer. You know, it's absolutely invaluable for banging pegs in. It's weighs about 200 grams. No, you know, a hammer needs to be heavy, but 200 grams is nothing. You can get quite a good blow on that for your pegs. It's a definite thing to have. It's 6:30. Just light snow at the moment. It's -2. I didn't fancy my meal, so I've had the bivvy shut. Just tried to get warm. I was shivering at first. Had to put my thermals on under my down trousers. Fine, not a problem. Need to finish the story off of my theory about 4-jacks. The current building you see now, it was restored last year. I don't know what state it was in before, but it's a grouse butt. It's 4 foot square. That's not the one that was in the pictures. And actually that site isn't big enough to have that building that's in the pictures on it. Now, I don't even know if I'm pitched in the right place, but a couple of people have told me that this was the site of the original 4-jacks, or the original 4-jacks cabin, and that when you're sticking your stakes in, you can feel stones under the ground for the foundations of it. Now, my theory is that Mike Tym and William Belfit built the original the chapel here, and when it was rebuilt, it looks to have a fair amount of timber in it, so the 4-jacks carried that up and added it to the top of it rather than being all stone. I think the 4-jacks that's there now is a grouse butt. I think that was an additional building, by the side of Grinsbrook, your shooters could have waited in there, spotting any grouse that fly by. And I think the shooting cabin was a sort of a shelter where you could come in and get warm and maybe have a fire, have a drink, you know, maybe keep some supplies in there, shooting stuff. That's my theory anyway. And the problem, I think, is that all of these stories about Four Jacks and about the chapel seem to have come from a single source, and that single source is actually on the Sheffield Pictures website. The guy that took the photos and explains what the photos are all about says that he met Jack Rowbottom, and Jack Rowbottom told him those stories. Now, I'm not doubting Jack's word at all, but it is a single source, uncorroborated. The only definite facts we have is that there was something here in 1870, because it's on the maps, and that in 1977 it was a more substantial building, because we've got photographs. But it makes a fascinating story, doesn't it? And it's one of those bits, you know, where if you don't know, if you're just coming up Kinder and you don't know it's there, then you'll never find it, because I found it by chance last year when I was hiking across. I'd seen on the maps an area of stones in the middle, and I was hiking up to there, and you're coming along this magical little, it looks like a Venetian canal in places, of Grindsbrook, and you come across this building and you think, what the hell's that? And I asked at the time, and I think it was Kev Green who messaged me back and said, well, that's Four Jacks. It didn't have a plaque on then, but it was the shape it was now, so I suspected it was being renovated by the National Trust at the time. The next time I came, I don't think there was a plaque on it, but there was they had put some grass on the tops of bits of it, and I made the mistake of going and sitting inside. I got absolutely mauled to death by buzzy things. Of course, there's no problem with that today, is there? Yeah, there is some accumulation happening. You can see bits have been covered. And look on here. It's very, very, very fine, and that's because of the temperature. 4:30, there's been quite a snowfall. Tarp was flapping a lot, but then it stopped. And I didn't realise it's because I seem to have a big snowdrift on top of me, so I'm just going to get out and try and clear it. Well, that's been interesting. That's taken a lot of digging out. You can see there's a 4-foot drift on the back of the tarp now. I've got it all out. I've got the bivvy away. Just final bits now. And I've got the journey back. Right, well, there we go. got the nasty bit of Grindslow done now. Just had an almost biblical experience. From right where I was camped at 4 Jacks, and obviously the snow up there's 4 foot plus drifts, pretty tricky. There was a set of fox prints in the snow, and in your head torch they shine like almost luminescent, and they guided me all the way to Grindslow, along to the edge path. You know, those tricky bits on the edge path where you can go down the wrong bit. Kept me on the right bit till the top here, and they've come down the clough and then they disappeared when I got to the Fountain of Youth. Obviously the fox has gone there for a drink, I think. It's just, probably my tired mind overworking things, but it did seem quite fantastic. Ooh. What an incredible experience. I am so lucky to have been able to do that. Incredible. All the gear worked really well. Waking up at 4 o'clock feeling a bit cold, thinking, oh heck. And then I realised there was a snowdrift on top of me, 4 foot high, that I had to clear off the whole tarp. So that's 3B2.9 of 4 foot thick snow. Interesting. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. It's not quite the video I intended, but I think I got the bit that I intended into it as well. And I couldn't do as much filming as I wanted to coming down because I was trying to stop myself from falling and staying warm and surviving and getting down. I've just got the short walk into Edale now and then back to the van. Thank goodness. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.